the Traffic Advisory Committee meeting to order on March 18, 2025. Meeting is called to order. Roll call.
Economic Development and Community Planning Manager Myrick is absent. Assistant Public Works Director Baer.
Here.
Inter-Fire Chief Blaha.
Present.
Police Commander Pascone.
Here.
Committee Member Pacheco.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Review of the agenda. If there are any items that rose after the 72-hour agenda, at this point in the majority in the meeting where vote may be taken to add the item to the agenda. Is there anything to be added to the agenda? Seeing none, I do want to remove item 5E and 6A at this time. Okay, so that's been done. Public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the commission on matters within the jurisdiction of the city of Seaside, but not on this agenda, may do so during public comment period for up to 3 minutes. Comments on specific items are heard under that item. For the public record, please state your name. So items only, new items can only be agendized at this time. Old items, I mean, anything on the agenda, save for the agenda. This is all for new items. Anything from the public on new items?
If you'd like to, yeah.
Why don't you give them a mic?
I didn't plan. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
I didn't plan to speak, but I live on Jim Moore, pardon me, on Peralta backyard, abuts Jim Moore. And
Okay.
the speed limit there I learned is it gone up to like 45. But in the evenings, there's a lot of cars that go well over that and make a loud noise. And I had requested, I'm going to request that there'll be a sign posted. I know that police presence has gone way down, but it's going to become a nuisance. And there's a school nearby that is very dangerous. It's right off Coe and Jim Moore. And I would request a sign posted that tells people their speed. It kind of alerts the conscience that you're going too fast. Now, that in my case, I've seen that and it's affected me and how I drive when it says you're going too fast. So that's what I was going to request. Thank you.
Is there anything else? Anybody wants to make comment? Seeing none. And I know that the department is here and we'll make note of that and anyway they can.
There's a public comment here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Why don't you go up here, sir?
Considered additional driveway approach at 1496 Judson Street.
Yeah, I believe that's on the agenda, so that'll be discussed during the.
All right, sorry.
You're cool. Anything else? Okay, nothing else. So approve the minutes, is there? Set forth and not, and anybody want to make a recommendation or motion on approving the minutes? Make a motion to approve minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, business item 5A. Consider the installation of a red curve at 1238 1 to after point.
Thank you, committee members.
Good evening. I'm Patrick Grogan, Associate Engineer with the Public Works Department. I'll be presenting on item 5A, consider the application for red curb at 1238 Wanda. Staff received the Traffic Advisory Committee request application dated January 10th, 2025 from a resident requesting the installation of red curb adjacent to the driveway at 1238 Wanda Avenue. The resident noted difficulty exiting the driveway and vehicles partially blocking his driveway. Wanda Avenue is classified as a residential street with a posted speed limit of 25 miles per hour and one lane of traffic in each direction. Wanda Avenue is approximately 35 feet wide, measured from face of curb to face of curb with parallel parking on both sides of the street. Sidewalks measuring approximately 5 feet wide are present on both sides of the street. Single-family residences are located along both sides of this block of Wanda Avenue. The applicant's driveway is approximately 10 feet wide at the back of sidewalk and 13.75 feet wide at the curb. The distance to the next driveway approach to the east is approximately 7 feet, which is not sufficient for space for one parking spot. The distance to the driveway to the west is approximately 12.5 feet, which is not sufficient for one parking spot. A standard parallel parking space is 20 feet long. Staff conducted a site visit at 1238 Wanda Avenue. During the site visit, it was noted that street parking is limited. Staff considered multiple factors when evaluating red curb for driveways, including visibility from the driveway, maneuvering into and out of the driveway, width of the driveway, and the length of the adjacent curb for parking spaces. Placing red curb immediately to the east of this driveway approach immediately to the east and west of this driveway approach would assist with the applicant's ability to maneuver in and out of their driveway, as well as deter vehicles from parking into his driveway. Staff recommends installing, I printed out an old slide here. It's correct on the screen. Staff recommends installing 7 feet of red curb on the east side and 12.5 feet of red curb on the west side of the driveway at 1238 Wanda Avenue. If you have any questions, I can answer them now.
Does the community have any questions? Seeing none, are there any comments from the community residents?
The applicant is in attendance.
Do you have any comments?
No, if he said it, pretty much it.
Okay. Bringing it back to the committee, does anybody have any motions or comments or bringing this to staff recommend approval?
Make a motion to recommend the staff's recommendations to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending. Item B, consider additional driveway approach at 1496 Judson Street. Staff?
Thank you. I'll be presenting item 5B for consider additional driveway approach at 1496 Judson. Staff received the TAC request application dated January 3rd, 2025 from the property owner of 1496 Judson Street, requesting the addition of a second driveway approach to allow for additional on-site parking. The lot currently has one driveway on Elm Avenue. Judson Street is a one-way residential street with one lane of travel in the southbound direction and parallel parking on the west side of the street. The applicant's property is located on the east side of the street. The block is populated with single-family homes. Judson Street is approximately 21 feet wide from face of curb to face of curb and has a speed limit of 25 miles an hour. 5-foot sidewalks are present on both sides of the street. 1496 Judson Street is a single parcel with one residence and an attached garage. The property has approximately 123 feet of street frontage. The City of Seaside's Municipal Code Section 17.34.120, driveways and site access, outlines the requirements for driveways of single-family dwellings as follows. A, number of driveways. The number and placement of driveways shall be limited as follows, provided that second driveways or additional curb cuts may be approved by the Traffic Advisory Committee. Single dwellings and duplexes. A single dwelling or duplex shall be allowed one driveway, except that a circular driveway may be allowed on a parcel with 70 or more feet of street frontage, and a parcel within the RS8 or RS12 zones with a frontage of 200 feet or more may have two separate driveways, provided they are separated by a minimum of 100 feet or lesser distance as approved by the city engineer. B, distance from street corners. Each driveway shall be separated from the nearest street intersection as follows, except where the city engineer allows a lesser separation. A minimum of 150 feet from the nearest intersection as measured from the center line of the driveway to the center line of the nearest travel lane of the intersecting street. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And for parcels with frontages less than 150 feet, the minimum distance shall be 100 feet. Per the above stated code sections, 1496 Judson Avenue is not eligible for a second driveway as its frontage is only 123 feet of the required 200 feet, and the proposed driveway would be approximately 85 feet from the intersection as measured by the method specified in the municipal code. The approval of this application would not remove any public parking spots as parking is not allowed on the east side of Judson Street. If the applicant were approved for a second driveway approach and installed a driveway, the driveway would need to be in approved permeable material by a city engineer per SMC 17.34.120G surfacing and 17.12.050 hardscape lot coverage requirements. Staff recommends denying the resident's application for an additional driveway approach off Judson Street as the property does not meet the minimum requirements stated in SMC section 17.34.120. I can answer any questions.
My only question is it's a very narrow street. I drove by it today. It's a lot of parking on that street as well. Does the road east and west road, I guess, right next to it, has seen that house is on the corner. Was that part of the process in making that decision because of the congestion and all that, or was it just because of the 120 feet and 200 feet?
During the site meeting, the applicant specified that sometimes they have to park some of their vehicles some distance away from the house, and that even parking on Elm Street is taken up. And they're not allowed to park on the Judson side. I believe that their son is in attendance and can speak to the owner's specific concerns. But we also, because it's on a corner and there's the requirement that a driveway be located some distance from the intersection, it's evaluated for that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none. Any comments from the public on this issue here on Judson Street? Any last chance? Any questions from the public on this issue? Does anybody live at 1238 Wanda Avenue? Now is the time you probably want to say.
1496.
I'm sorry, 1496 Judson Street.
Come down the microphone.
Yeah, now's that time to.
Yeah, my parents just want me to come here to make an argument about the parking space and it being congested, and they just want to make a new driveway so there can be an extra parking space available for our vehicles.
Okay. Anything else, sir?
No, that'll be it.
Thank you. Do you have any questions or?
Yeah. Can staff clarify the thought behind the 200-foot setbacks and 150-foot setbacks or frontage limitations, and in relation to the benefit of having an additional off-street parking space? I mean, we have congested streets, we have too many cars on the streets. A parking space a driveway cut here would not block it or take any parallel parking. And we get more and more car off the street.
Thank you, Paul. Can you go back? There you go. Yeah, that is correct. So this would not be removing any public parking spots because there is no parking allowed on that side of the street due to how narrow Judson is. The code sections about street frontage, limiting the amount of driveway approaches you can have, is so that you don't have a lot of entrance and exit points in the street where vehicles might be unexpectedly entering or exiting the street. It also minimizes the amount of conflict points between pedestrians on the sidewalk and vehicles entering or exiting a property. The code section about distance from street corners is to minimize the amount of driveway entrance and exit points where a vehicle might be turning onto a street and then suddenly being in conflict with a vehicle that's pulling into or out of a driveway.
Questions? Yeah, I mean, another reason for the frontage limitation would be so we don't take more on-street parking. Right, I mean, if you cut you make a sidewalk cut every 20 feet or 30 feet, you take more on-street parking. And Judson Street's a 25-mile-an-hour street.
Yeah.
Okay, bringing him back to, yes, sir.
Patrick, a while ago, we had a request for a second driveway off of, I believe, 1,000 or 11 or 1,200 block of Waring, where we denied a second driveway that already poured the concrete slab. And we denied it based on the next door neighbor's driveway was close to the property line as well.
Do you mean Kenneth?
Was it Kenneth?
We did have a second driveway request on Kenneth where the applicant had already poured a quote unquote patio. And it was right up against property line.
But is this similar?
So this, he actually has, so if you look at the image here, the red deck area is where he would be putting his driveway. There is a landscape buffer strip between the property line and his deck that's about 3.5 feet. And if he were to get approved for the driveway and install it, he would have to conform with Seaside's municipal code, which says that he can't have a driveway approach within 3 feet of a property line. That doesn't pose an issue here. He does have the room to install the driveway approach while maintaining the clearance from the, I believe there's a telephone pole right there and the property line.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Bringing you back to the committee for recommendation.
I'd like to make a motion to go with the staff recommending denying the residence application for additional driveway approach off of Judson Street based on the Seaside Municipal Code section.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so 4-0, looks like. Thank you. Consider a installation of a red curb at 1538 Hilby Avenue. Can I say something really quick?
Yeah.
That item will be brought in front of the city council and they'll make the final decision. So your parents or you want to come to the council, staff will notify you when that is on the agenda and it goes to the council for a affirmative or a negative based on tax recommendation.
Yeah, as a note, I'll be contacting all of the applicants regardless of the recommendation to let them know the next steps for when it's going to go to city council and recommending that they come to the city council to speak on their item. And I'll be in touch with all the applicants closer to the city council meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I will be presenting item 5C, consider the installation of red curb at 1538 Hilby Avenue. Staff received the TAC request application dated February 15th, 2025 from a resident requesting the installation of red curb on the south side of Hilby Avenue immediately to the east of the driveway of 1538, 1538A, and 1540 Hilby Avenue. The resident noted that there is no place for trash cans at the curb when vehicles are parked near the driveway, which results in the service company leaving the cans on the sidewalk or in his driveway and blocking pedestrian and vehicle paths in the city right-of-way. This request was previously heard by the TAC at the August 2nd, 2022 meeting and the September 27th, 2022 meeting and the City Council on October 20th, 2022. TAC previously recommended the approval of the applicant's request. City Council denied the request. Hilby is classified as a collector street with multiple residences fronting the street, resulting in a high volume of vehicles parked on the street. Sidewalks measuring approximately 4 feet wide are present on this side of the street. Hilby Avenue is approximately 40 feet wide with a speed limit of 30 miles an hour, 1 lane of travel in each direction, and parallel parking on both sides of the street. There is approximately 48.5 feet between the applicant's driveway approach and the nearest adjacent driveway approach to the east. This is sufficient room for 2 full parallel parking spaces being 20 feet in length. When 2 parallel parking spaces abut each other with room to navigate into and out of the spaces on one end of each space, the length of the parking space may be reduced to 18 feet without affecting ingress or egress of the spaces. Staff conducted a site visit at 1538 Hilby Avenue. Staff considered multiple factors when evaluating red curb for driveways, including visibility from the driveway, maneuvering into and out of the driveway, width of the driveway, and the length of the adjacent curb for parking spaces. Placing red curb immediately to the east of the driveway approach would assist with the applicant's ability to maneuver in and out of the driveway, as well as provide space for garbage cans without blocking pedestrian right-of-way or the driveway, and without removing any legitimate parking spots. As the curb length on the east side of the driveway is longer than is required for 2 parking spots, staff recommends installing 12 feet of red curb to the east of the driveway approach as requested by the applicant. And I can take any questions you might have.
My question is, go back to that picture. Do you know how many, it looks like when I drove by, there were numerous residents that live back there.
There are.
Is it like 10? I mean,
There's 3 residences. This is a flag lot. So the only street frontage the lot has is the driveway approach. In this picture, there's 2 driveways. The one to the west is for the mobile home park, and the one to the east is the driveway for the 3 residences further down behind the street fronting lots.
and when I drove by today, the parking was pretty much the way it is now. So when you try to drive out to see around that corner, it's pretty much an accident waiting, in my opinion, an accident waiting to happen. Because where that white car is, I mean, they were right on the edge. So be it the mobile home park or the housing, it's staff believes, it appears that it's a hazardous situation trying to turn right or turn left, that appears, or at least that's my.
The applicant did tell us that one of their tenants was recently in a car accident leaving the driveway because they had to peek out to look around cars. They've also told us that they have before encountered pedestrians who are forced to walk in the travel lane because trash cans are blocking the sidewalk, which was the reason for their first request in 2022. They may be on Zoom, so if they are, they can provide additional details.
Okay. So it impacts quite a few people then, as far as.
Yeah, that's them.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions from the committee? Seeing that, let's go to the residents and or Zoom.
Residents, feel free.
Okay, hi.
Are you guys there?
Yes, you're set.
Okay, I just wanted to thank you guys for taking the time to hear this again. Mr. Grogan pretty much summed it up. We're back for a second round of going through City Hall with this. And as he mentioned, there was a pretty good accident. Her car was totaled coming out of the driveway. And he mentioned that she was trying to peek around the car. She was trying to get around the trash cans that were placed into the driveway and on the sidewalk by Green Waste after emptying them because there's no place to put them. And they won't exit their vehicles to maneuver those cans to make the adjustments for us. So that's why we're asking for this again.
Thank you. Is there any other comments?
Thank you.
From the residents?
Are those your trash cans?
Yes.
Yeah, there's 3 houses down there, so 9 cans total. We've actually, I own 2 of the homes down there, and I had to reduce the trash service to 1 service for the 2 homes, so 3 cans instead of 6. And it's a constant battle with the tenants on who's taking the trash up, who's supposed to take the trash up, et cetera. And at that, that's a difficulty for us. We also have a situation where we're bringing our cans up days in advance to try to get a spot to put them. There's a thing in the city where or I don't know if it's Green Waste or the city, where we could be fined for having our cans up there too long. So it's a constant thing of trying to time this right and get our cans up there. And when we do that, it's working for the most part, but people are now backing right up to the trash cans, and Green Waste will not pick them up. And we have to pay for them to come back to service us again. They stated that it was because the cans were too close to the vehicles on the street. But the cans were up there 2 days when there were no vehicles up there on the street, and they're backing their vehicles right up to the cans, and then we can't get service. So again, appreciate you hearing this and taking the time.
Just one more question for you there.
Shoot.
When I drove by today, it looks, there was no trash can, so I couldn't gather that, but for me, the concern was the visibility of making, especially left-hand turns coming out, going downhill, or right-hand turns as far as potential or could be accidents.
Yeah, there was an accident on New Year's Eve of 2023. Our tenant was leaving, and her car was totaled at the top of the driveway.
My question for you is, does there seem to be, is the trash cans issue or the visibility of going right or left?
It's both.
For the residents, not on the residents as far as the safety is obviously a concern.
Yeah, it's a big concern with the safety and the visibility coming out of that driveway. If you went up there, you could see it kind of goes downhill as you're,
Right.
coming off of Hilby. So when you're coming out of that property and you almost have no visibility at that point. So that red curb would really help that along as well.
Okay. Do you have any questions? Okay, thank you. Is there any questions from the residents? Seeing none, let's bring it back to the committee.
Make a motion to approve the staff's recommendations to have a red curb painted on the curb to allow garbage cans to be placed there.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The ayes have it 4-0. Item D, consider the installation of blue curb in front of 1679 Soto.
Thank you. This is item 5D. Consider the installation of blue curb in front of 1679 Soto Street. An incorrect photo exhibit was included in the staff report, so I've included those photos here before I give my presentation. This is the proposed blue curb location. This is the front of the property. This is an example of lane width and parking availability taken at approximately 2 p.m. This is an example of a recessed ADA compliant parking space that's currently being constructed on Lincoln Street. And this is the same space from a different angle. Example of a recessed ADA compliant parking space currently being constructed on Lincoln Street. Staff received the TAC request application dated February 24th, 2025 from a resident requesting the installation of blue curb in front of 1679 Soto Street. Soto Street is a single-family residential property. Soto Street is a one-way residential street with a posted speed limit of 25 miles per hour, one lane of traffic in the southbound direction, and with parallel parking on both sides of the street. The street is approximately 25 feet wide from face of curb to face of curb. Excuse me. Sidewalks measuring approximately 3 feet wide are present on this block. Single-family residences are present on this block. The lot has approximately 50 feet of street frontage. There is a driveway from Soto Street, which I believe is a correction in the staff report. So the driveway is on Soto Street, not whatever street is in the staff report. The driveway is 15 feet wide at the curb. The resident stated that she depends on rideshare, hired transportation, and friends for transportation, and that they must park their cars in the lane of travel for loading because parking spots are rarely available near her residence. Per Seaside Municipal Code 10.32.240A.5, curb markings to indicate no stopping and parking regulations. Blue indicates parking limited exclusively to the vehicles of physically handicapped persons. Right-of-way accessibility guidelines, section R310.2 outlines the requirements for Americans with Disabilities Act compliant parallel parking spots. These regulations are summarized as follows. Dimensions. Parallel on-street parking spaces shall be at least 24 feet long minimum and 13 feet wide, and shall not encroach on the traveled way, except where spaces are altered but the adjacent pedestrian circulation path is not. Any accessible parallel on-street parking spaces provided must have the same dimensions as the adjacent parallel spaces if they are provided nearest to a compliant crossing with a curb ramp or blended transition. The right-of-way should not be less than 9 feet in width. Pedestrian access route connection. Each parallel on-street parking space shall connect to a pedestrian access route where curb ramps and blended transitions are used. They shall not reduce the required width or length of the parking spaces and shall be located at either end of the parking space in order to conform with the above regulations. Curb and sidewalk alterations would be required in order to place the ADA parking space in front of 1679 Soto Street. The current width from the center line of the right-of-way to the back of the sidewalk is approximately 15.5 feet. A minimum width of 20.5 feet from center line to back of sidewalk is required to install the appropriate curb and sidewalk alterations. Alternatively, if the available right-of-way does not meet the requirements, a section of blue curb may be painted to designate an ADA compliant parking spot adjacent to a corner curb ramp or mid-block crossing with a curb ramp. There are no compliant curb ramps in the vicinity of the applicant's residence. If a curb ramp were to be installed, the closest suitable location would be the southwest corner of Mingo Ave and Soto Street, approximately 200 feet from the applicant's residence. Due to the lack of compliant curb ramps and the lack of street right-of-way width, staff evaluated the following alternative solutions to fulfill the applicant's request. Alternative. Paint 20 feet of green curb immediately north of the applicant's existing driveway approach. California Vehicle Code Section 22511.5 allows a person displaying a disabled placard or license plate to park for an unlimited amount of time in time-restricted parking spaces. The general public would still be allowed to park in the space within the 20-minute time restriction. Additionally, green curb would not require the modification to the curb or sidewalk. I would like to point out that the applicant has specifically communicated that they would prefer blue curb. If you have any questions, I can answer them now.
Question, the driveway that they have,
Paul, can you bring it back up?
that's a one-car driveway, correct?
The driveway is narrow. It is for one car.
Why don't we'll come back to you in a minute. Okay, that was, I just wanted clarification of that. Thank you.
Can you clarify if there was to be an ADA parking space at the end of the block, is the sidewalk ADA compliant or would the sidewalk need to be increased all the way to the rest of his house?
The code for the parking space doesn't specify if you need to have a ADA compliant path of travel all the way to wherever you're trying to get. They would need to install an ADA compliant curb ramp because there is not one at that corner. The sidewalk is 3 feet wide, and I do not recall right now if there's any obstructions that reduce that width. There likely are in between the corner and her house.
My only other question, if by chance that this committee approves the blue car ramp, the applicant would be responsible for those corrected changes. Is that correct?
That is correct. In this case, the applicant would have to grant the city an easement to extend the right of way 5 feet into their yard behind the fence that they have, so that the appropriate curb alterations could be made, and the applicant would also have to pay for those curb alterations.
So they would make some significant changes in the cement, and it could be relatively expensive as well. Okay. In a nutshell. Versus the cost of a green is less costly as well. Any other questions?
Parking enforcement would enforce the 20-minute parking.
Parking enforcement doesn't routinely go into residential areas. The applicant would have to call parking enforcement if someone was there for longer. There is always the chance that patrol or parking enforcement would drive by. But parking enforcement is not guaranteed outside the hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Outside those hours, patrol would be enforcing parking, and I believe they only do it based on complaint at that time.
The same would hold true though for a blue curb.
Yeah, if someone parked in a blue curb without a handicap placard, and any blue curb on the street is open to any handicap resident or driver. The same situation would apply. You would have to call to get parking or patrol to come by your location.
Thank you. Any comments from the public?
The applicant, by the way, is here.
Please come up after, young lady.
Or actually, she can go first. No, that's okay. As you can see on, maybe you can put the photo where there's a white truck.
Paul, can you put it back up?
There's a white right there. So that's practically where I live. I live on 1672. By putting a handicap, you're taking the community's parkway. As you can see there's a driveway that's not being used. I understand. I have 2 handicaps. I have my mother and I have my dad. And I didn't knew about this until I received the letter. So if I would have known, I would have asked for a handicap area for my parents too. Knowing this, I think it's not something that is needed because it's taken away from the community. Parking, people are not allowed to park there. I don't know why. And it should be a street where everybody can park anywhere. We're having some issues in there. So, and cars, the truck that you have there, the blue one, it's been there parked 1 year, doesn't move, it's been there. Why is it nothing going with the park patrol? I don't know what's going on. That there's other cars that are, the one in front of it stays there for a few weeks. There's another car, it's the classical one. They park there and they don't get moved around a lot. And I did send an email, so I don't know who gets that email. My name is Karina Pinedo. So yeah, I did send an email stating the reason why I wouldn't want a blue line in a community where we're overpopulated and there's nowhere to park. Or if I park in the street, or I understand the fact that if we park in the street, there's a car that can run us over because they don't respect us.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mhm.
Any other comments from the public? You have to come towards and visit us.
We can.
Or
would
bring the
like
mic to you. Can you bring the mic to this young lady?
Bring her the mic.
That way.
I'm not real good at speaking right now because I do have difficulty with.
Can you hold the mic up, please?
I have damage to my verbal part of my brain, okay? And then I have some other physical issues also. My problem has been that, and I do have some pictures, the lady that is across the street from where they live. She does have that blue truck that doesn't move. She has a non-working vehicle in her
Excuse me,
driveway.
why don't you just refer your comments to the committee
I am.
rather than to the another young lady?
I was just saying that she's correct. There are those things that are sitting on our street that never move. And then there are
Take your time.
Noella's car has a bicycle rack on the back. And when she parks across her driveway, that bicycle rack is in my driveway. Okay, and then the people that are directly across the street have more than one person, family living in there, but one of them always parks on my side and usually right up to the edge of my driveway. My daughter comes to pick me up and she can't parallel park in that space. And so that means that she has to stop in the middle of the street and pick me up there, which blocks traffic. And that is true of any of my friends or the public transportation, you know, like Lyft or rideshare, any of those things that come to pick me up. They all have to stop in the middle of the street under most circumstances. My problem with the blue curb is that I need to stay without stress. Because I have seizures, and when I'm stressed out, I have a lot of difficulty speaking.
My only question is, in your driveway, do you have a car in the driveway?
I do not have a car in my driveway, but in order to get a car in that driveway, I have to open the gate completely. And it's extremely difficult if someone's just picking me up to pull into the driveway, only to pull back out with people on either side, and then cars parked across driveways and everything else to get back out again.
Right.
And a taxi and a Lyft will not. But if there is a space for them to pull in, they will.
Great, thank you. Any other comments on that issue?
You can speak right there.
So I do have a picture of what she was describing, but I wasn't able to submit it. But so the trailer that she's talking about that encroaches, the people that park right behind, like they have ample space to pull back. So I drive a relatively large Hyundai, so I'll have to like go around the block, or I'll have to park 3 spots up, because I help her like with shopping and stuff, so we can't just stop in the middle of the road and pull everything out. What we're just asking is for a little bit more consideration, because there is optional parking, but some of the neighbors just seem to kind of make it so that we can't squish our vehicles in there, and then there's just a bunch of large vehicles. The blue one, we've been having a lot of issues with that blue truck because it doesn't move. She has a Jeep and a trailer also that doesn't move. So that person, it's the car or the house that's like directly right next to my mom's house. If she got rid of her Jeep that cannot run, she could put her blue truck that she doesn't move inside of her driveway, because that takes up 3 spots right there.
Okay, thank you.
I mean,
So, ma'am, come on.
it sounds to me like staff's recommendation is to not support the blue curb because we can't legally fit a blue curb. We can't paint a non-conforming spot, ADA, we can't paint it with blue curb. we have to do a very substantial investment to upgrade the street. You know, by taking an 8-foot wide parking space, another 5-foot wide, 5-foot wide width of street, we would end up pushing the parking space into we don't have room in the street to move it out. We'd end up pushing it into your property. You'd have to deed some of your property to us for us to, well, I think you'd have to pay for the improvements. You'd have to probably deed some of your property to the city and pay for, I mean, that's $35,000 to $50,000 worth of improvements to make it a legal ADA spot. Staff, on the other hand, is proposing a green curb, which is something that we can legally paint that would give you almost exclusive access, the same kind of protection that an ADA spot would. It just wouldn't be. It doesn't require the same ADA, not the same ADA threshold of requirements or standards of construction. And then it sounds like you're bringing up another item that people are parking, in your driveway or within your driveway approach. And there's 2 driveways next to each other, yours and your neighbors, with a non-compliant parking space in between, and red tipping to make sure your driveways are wide and accessible, and or red curbing, lengths of curb that are less than a conforming parking space is a very normal thing for us to do that doesn't take parking. So, I mean, it sounds like what staff's trying to do is recommend things that are feasible, that are cost effective, and that minimize taking parking.
I understand what you're saying.
Why don't we bring it back to the committee? Any comments from the committee?
No, he covered everything I was thinking.
So is that a motion on that, or?
Motion to accept that staff recommends placing a green curb in front of 1679 Soto Street.
There was a second on that?
A second.
Yeah, just on the comments. Fortunately, we have a fine police department here, and it seems that there's a neighbor situation. And they made note, I'm sure, that about the cars that are not helping the situation, or the neighbors not helping the situation by being there for long term. So since you have spoken out, they have made note, and hopefully they will stop by and visit that area to remove some of the obstacles in the way. So I think that will be helpful as well. So that's the comment. There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. So it's 4-0. I'm sorry.
One quick question.
There's going to be a time for you to come back at the council meeting. And if you have any questions, you can call or ask staff. Why don't you do that after the meeting? And they can talk to you, or give them a call. They're always accessible to questions and help where they can. Thank you very much for the residents that spoke up on both sides of the issue. Staff communication. Is there any staff communication?
Yes, thank you. Public Works staff wanted to provide a brief update on red curb adjacent to intersections per the new daylighting law. Public Works is integrating red curb 20 feet adjacent to a crossing throughout the city when we have a project in that area. So we have recently done the Bike Safe Grates project, which had various locations all over the city, and we are completing the pavement rehab project at various locations all over the city. And as part of those projects, we have already performed some red curbing in compliance with the new California law. We have upcoming projects for a hotspot pavement project and for a storm drain project on Mingo, where we will be implementing additional red curbing adjacent to intersections. And then around the Seagrove apartment development, we will be the developers and ourselves will be doing some additional red curbing around Terrace and Broadway. So Public Works is going to be integrating red curb for the foreseeable future all over the city whenever we have a project in that area, or as specific safety concerns arise. We will also address community safety concerns for red curb near corners. And I believe the PD staff is doing additional red curbing work, and they have a update to give you.
Just can I ask a question one here? The hotspots that they're doing as we speak, 10 to 20 when it appears, are those going to be red curbed as part of that plan?
Leslie is managing the hotspots project, and I don't know the number of locations that are getting red curbed. I know she is doing some. We can come back with an update at the next one with the amount that we are doing.
But I just know there are many going up, the roads being repaired. Okay, that was.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to make a presentation or not? Yes, why don't you come forward? Share with us.
I believe I'm on the agenda.
You're under staff, you're under the staff report.
Oh, okay, so now.
Now the time.
Great. And I do just want to say to the residents, I've made a note of the address and we'll be coming by to look for abandoned vehicles.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just had a question. Maybe you can.
Why don't we, again, after the meeting is over, unfortunately, please ask your question or for tomorrow, not during this process. Thank you.
Yeah. So, hi, I'm parking compliance specialist Iris Klotz. My colleague, vehicle abatement officer Montez, is also in attendance. We did go out and do some painting, as Mr. Grogan said, as part of our daylighting project in compliance with the new California law. I'm just going to run through it quickly because we do have some members of the public who might not have heard about this, but the city of Seaside is committed to Vision Zero. So no traffic deaths. That's people walking, people biking, or people driving. And one of the ways we can achieve this is by improving visibility at corners. So the new California law makes it illegal to park within 20 feet of an intersection or 15 feet if there's a bulb out. And all intersections in California are considered crosswalks, just because I know that can be a confusing point for people. But if there is an intersection, there is legally a crosswalk. So the previous situation was people could park all the way up to the crosswalk, and that prevented drivers from being able to see pedestrians. It also prevented drivers from being able to see other oncoming traffic, and that increased the risk of collisions. The new situation is parking within those up to the intersection is no longer allowed. And Hoboken, New Jersey had daylighted all intersections in their city, and they've had 0 traffic deaths in the last 7 years. For reference, Hoboken has about 60,000 residents and Seaside only has 30,000. We currently have about 1 traffic death per year. I think we can do better. So our project, the first 4 intersections that we painted, we did San Pablo at Mescal, San Pablo at Yosemite, Yosemite at Westminster, and Noche Buena at Military. We chose those because they're near school zones. So you can see Sergeant Enriquez, Animal Control Officer Shelgren, PCS De Leon, myself, and Vehicle Abatement Officer Montez at work. So I hope you enjoy, these pictures. We also additionally, by the high school, for really reinforcement and to make sure that nobody would park there, we also painted these white stripes. And then we wanted to thank Billy and Monty at Public Works for assisting us with obtaining the flex posts, and then Billy installed them. Because people do have a tendency of parking on red curbs sometimes. You can see that these spots, I don't know if you can see very well in these pictures, but there are oil stains. People did used to park right up next to the curb. That would cause an issue for visibility. So these are the finished product. And you can see the pedestrians. They're very safe. They're very visible. It's lovely. So we do plan to do an additional painting day with some other intersections that we had identified as high collision near schools or that residents had requested. Unfortunately, due to weather, we haven't been able to do as many painting days as we would have liked because the streets keep being very wet. But we would like to do some more. And then as Mr. Grogan mentioned, a lot has also already been done in the course of other roadway improvements. And there's a lot of upcoming improvements per communication with Leslie Antero. So we're not addressing those streets, not because they're not important, but because they're already going to be addressed. So we did have some questions from TAC if they had any priority intersections that are not already on the list to be addressed, and if we wanted to make a way for residents to request that their streets be painted. I also did have some members of the public approach me, including the owner of Grocery Outlet, saying that he would like to volunteer to physically participate in the painting. And I've heard that from a couple of other people. I'm not remembering the names at this time, but some people have said, hey, I would love to have this on my block. Give me a paintbrush. Let me do it. So if that's something we would like to pursue, I just wanted to bring that up. And I don't know if there's been an outside company. We heard that potentially engineering might have hired a company to go and add some additional red curbs. So we just want to make sure that we're not overlapping on that. I don't know if anybody could email me with that information. That would be great. There's another little in process work, and, we've been quite pleased with the project so far. Got some good public feedback as well. Any questions?
Right. You mentioned there was only one death, but that doesn't mean there weren't countless accidents.
Yes, the police department responds to multiple collisions every week.
And then another question would be, because the council members asked it, and I will probably ask it on Thursday as a forewarning. This would not take away parking.
No, sir, it does not remove any legal parking spots,
Right.
because in the state of California, it is now illegal to park within 20 feet of an intersection at all intersections.
And then I guess my last question would be, or comment or question, not sure what it'd be. You mentioned some streets that you're going to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was 4.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, 4. And that's great. And what the Public Works is doing as far as the hotspots, that's great. Can we, and because there's concerns on countless streets that I can give you 2 or 3 that impact, where I drive, but I see it daily. Can we do a plan, or, and even if it's 4-year, beyond that, so that way the residents know that theirs is coming, because I know I'll use Ruthie Watson is on Stowe. She has complained twice, and her neighbor, Mrs. Eggenhorn, she's complained twice. There's an area on Wheeler, so it's a significant issue where residents are concerned about their safety, especially the older population as they come out or back out of their areas. Can a plan be created by somebody, and I don't know who, even if it's steps, over a 10-year plan to cover most of the residents that are pulling in and out of corners? Is that feasible?
Yes, sir. I do think it's feasible. And that was our hope, that after we sort of got the ball rolling, that the appropriate department, whether that's Public Works or engineering, would sort of continue this. We're happy to keep rolling up our sleeves and painting. But yeah, I think that would be a great idea.
Because that might be mentioned Thursday as well, because I think there's a coordination between what you said and what he said, and we're on the same team here.
Yes.
And then there was one other concern, but I'll think about it and either tell you before the end of this meeting.
Yes.
Just to the council members' point about developing a work plan. If council directs us to do that and hopefully appropriates some funding to do that, then we would love to get that work plan together for you. Red curb costs $522 per 20 feet per the fee schedule, and that cost is determined by our actual cost. There's no profit in there. So in order to red curb the entire city, for instance, would be millions of dollars.
Right.
But it is definitely feasible, and we could make that plan for you. We'd love for that to be a project as directed by council, and maybe discussed with the city manager, and then we could move it on that.
So a plan can be created I make things up, over 100 years that you tends to, whatever it be,
Sure.
to create greater safety for the residents, in general.
Yeah, correct, yes. And then I had one additional staff comment not related to red curb. We just want to provide a staff update that we opened bids for the Hillby Traffic Calming Project, and we plan to award that at the April 3rd council meeting.
That's great.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments on that?
I'm just happy to see Olympia and Winton. I've been to several injury accidents there and also Olympia and San Lucas in my years here, and they've been accidents like the picture that we saw. So I'm happy to see that.
And then my last question, if a council person made a request for a phased project, and it gets approved, one could do that, I assume.
Yes, we could do that.
Thank you.
Can you, $500 for a 20-foot spot might be the cost for the one-off, but if there's production painting going on, is the cost closer to $5 per lineal foot or?
We'd have to ask maintenance about that. They dispatch a two-person crew with materials to go do it. I'm sure it would. If it was a large enough project, it would probably be more beneficial to hire a contractor to do it instead of have staff do it, because for a large project, we would be taking away limited maintenance staff from their other tasks.
Right.
Okay. Seeing no other questions. Let's call for adjournment at 6:04. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't want to